One of the things I love about Buddhism is that there are so many different practices that we can use to transform our mind. And so I wanted to talk about one that I have used that's been helpful. When we think about practicing Dharma, really it is to transform our mind, to eradicate our afflictions, because it's the afflictions that give us such misery. So anger and attachment and greed and jealousy and all of those. And so really there's kind of two broad approaches. One is that we can recognize when we have an affliction in the mind and then apply an antidote and work with it that way. And the other way that we can work with it is to think about the characteristics that a Buddha has and really practice familiarizing ourselves with those characteristics and kind of like a dress rehearsal or to practice doing things that way. And so that's what I wanted to talk about. And so that method really takes into consideration the motivation that we set. It's so important to set a motivation for what we're going to do, because the way that the mind works, when we set a strong motivation, our mind tends to go in that direction. When I was in Taiwan at Foguanshan with Vinabachuni, when we had our Bhikshuni ordination, the master there said something in one of the talks he gave that was so helpful to me. He said, "Allow your mind to affect the environment instead of letting the environment affect your mind." And that was so helpful. And so I kind of then build on that and think about, well, if I want to affect my environment, how do I want to do that? I want to do that by emulating the characteristics or qualities of a Buddha. Even though I'm nowhere near that, I want to practice that, and by practicing that, then I will be more familiar with those kinds of mind states. And so, of course, the motivation that we use here a lot, the motivations are to do no harm to others or myself, and to try and be of benefit as much as I can, and then to keep bodhicitta in the mind and continue to develop that's going to really drive all the actions that I do. And so when I think about it's kind of like a performance, really, to think about if an activity is coming up and I want to prepare my mind, I think about how I want to think about the people I'm going to interact with. And so I think about how they're human like me, they have feelings, they want to be happy and not suffer just like I do, so that creates kind of a connection with them to begin with, instead of them being kind of distant and separate. Now I see how we are all the same. So start with that, and then I think in my mind that I care about them, and so that kind of opens my heart. I care about you. And then the third one that I think about is that I care about your feelings. I care about, your feelings. And then to think about some specific characteristics that the Buddha has when he or she, any of them, Tara, Chenrezig, Shakyamuni, what they're doing when they're interacting, when they're acting, when they're doing their activities. They have certain characteristics. And so the first one I think about is that they have no mental stories. So can I enter into a situation with no mental stories about what's going to come up? So that takes a little effort, because we prepare ourselves with our mental stories. And of course, they're just conceptual junk, not really based in much reality. And then the second, again, is this caring concern. I have a caring concern for all that I interact with. I try to. The third one is no judgment. So how can I bring no judgment to what is in front of me? And sometimes, I can't do that. I notice that the judgments are arising, but I try to dissolve them. It's just conceptual, just my mind. Then the next one is no self-importance. So can I interact with others without puffing up my ego and it being about me? So no self-importance. Not in a derogatory way, not in a, I'm worthless way, not that, but just that others in front of me are more important than I am right now. Just that. And then along with that is no solid walls. So can I interact with whoever's in front of me without creating walls internally? This is an internal state, so instead of interacting with some distance and separateness, can I, dissolve the walls and again see how we're connected? What is it that we bring that connects us? Yeah. And, if nothing else, it always is, I want to be happy, I don't want to suffer. You want to be happy, you don't want to suffer. Same for all of us. The next one is no fears. And so again, all of these have different layers and levels to work with. Now, if I'm going to enter into something that I don't know about and fear arises, then I have to apply some of the antidotes to work with that, fear generally is not so helpful because, again, that's all about me. So, again, to work with that state. And then joy, to bring joy to it. So, joyous effort. So what is that? That is, taking delight in virtue. So if I set my motivation to begin with, to be connected and to be open to whatever is in front of me, then I can just remember that whole activity is quite joyous. If I allow myself to look at it that way, it is. It's very joyous. So some joyous effort. And then focus. This one is important, and gaining some focus on what I'm doing so that I can keep my mind steady has a lot to do with what I do all the time with my mind, what I'm involved in. If I'm involved in internet surfing and checking the phone to see the next message and, all focused outward all the time and really quick things coming, then my focus is going to be affected by that and I'm not going to have very good focus. So to really pay attention to where I'm letting my mind go, because, we have so much input all the time with everything. I mean, just in this room, there's thousands of things that my senses are looking at, How can I kind of bring it back in and narrow that focus so that I'm not taking so much in all the time? So, that takes a little concentration. The next one is warmth. So again, attending to whatever is in front of me with this warm-hearted concern and care. So again, that's activating the heart. And I do that a lot of different ways. Sometimes when I'm tight and there's some space and room, I try to think about something that will open my heart. Because sometimes it's not the person in front of me. So what do? Well, sometimes I just have images in my mind of baby puppies, baby kitties. Oh, here they come, running and jumping all over me. And that can open the heart. So whatever image that you can use, little baby, whatever can kind of open your heart is helpful. And then understanding, and again, this is kind of connected to the one about self-importance. If my motivation is understanding, then it isn't on me and what I'm going to bring to the conversation. It's more about listening to the other. Self-control is the next one. So for that, to me, what that one means when I'm interacting with others is that I kind of pay attention to keep my mind steady no matter what arises. So, sometimes somebody will say something and then I'll feel the reaction. And so for me, it's usually in the body. I'll get, a little tight or feel. And so then I put some of my attention internally to kind of even that back out, and again, use different kinds of methods. I don't need to react to this. I don't need to get involved in this, Sometimes that's easy. Sometimes it's very difficult, but still I try. The next one is facial expression. So with this one, for me personally, a lot of what I'm thinking or feeling is shown on my face. So I try to kind of monitor that. That's a hard one for me. You can see kind of what's going on with me by looking at what my face is doing. But I try to work with that one. And again, to try to be receptive and open and supportive with whatever is in front of us. The next one is kind words. So this one, when I work with this one, if I have a reaction to something somebody said, I usually don't say much for a little while so that I can calm my mind, because if I say things when my mind is reactive, it's not kind often. So I want to work internally, and I don't have to say anything in the very moment. There's space and time. I don't have to react in the moment. And then the last one is thoughtful actions. And for this one, I think about, if I kind of get myself out of the way and I look at those that are around me, there's always something you can do to help someone else. Open the door, someone's, reaching for something, help give that to them. All these little things that are helpful and important. And if we pay attention to what we're doing, then we can rejoice in these activities to feel like, we're being of benefit. And even if it's the limited way that, I can do, at least I'm not harming and I'm thinking about someone else. If we add all of those moments up over time, we start creating this beautiful tapestry of caring concern, love and compassion for others, and then the actions of harm get weak, and the actions of care and concern and kindness for others get stronger and stronger. And then over time, what that means is that we're creating more merit, we're creating less negativity, and then we are progressing on the path, and then over time, we will be able to help people in really excellent ways, much more deep, helpful ways than maybe we can do right now. And so really to focus on what our motivation is and how we're going to lead with ourselves and affect the environment we're in, I think is also a very powerful practice, other than after the fact saying, what I did wrong and now I have to repair it or whatever. Of course that's very important. But what I've found for myself, if I just continue to focus on that, I can feel very, not very competent a lot. And so using this other side of it to actually focus on what can I do and how can I do it and how that will make a difference, I think that's a nice balanced way to work with the mind. So may we be able to develop these characteristics that the Buddha has, and may they become so familiar that it just pours out of us in all of the actions that we do. And by doing that, then we will progress very quickly on the path.